Okay, so here I am again having to talk about the evil overlords of Chrysler Corporation, Stellantis, the unholy joining of a French company and an Italian company to make one really, really poor quality company. And their complete lack of understanding, I guess, of the US market and what to do about it. I don't know who they asked how to market to Americans, but wow. So the other day they did a video on March 5th, and in this video was mainly memory berries of the Dodge brothers. I mean, that was the whole focus of this video. And I wish I could show it and go through it and cut it apart, but they're very litigious. And I have a feeling I'd get a copyright strike immediately. Even though it's a commercial, I would get a copyright strike. So I'm not going to go through it. I wish I could. But they spend a lot of time on the Dodge brothers, who are two people that died in 1920. Their business was around for less than 10 years. Their main part of their business before they built Dodge, the car company, was making engines for Henry Ford. Dodge Brothers made great four-cylinder engines. Let me repeat that, four-cylinder engines that were not high performance. They never built a high-performance engine, ever. It was not their thing. They made engines that were built like Swiss watches. They were reliable. So reusing that as a memory berry is insane. I did not think about the Dodge brothers when I wanted my Charger. No, I thought about Dodge in the 60s and 70s and how they had the coolest cars. Because Dodge's heyday was way after the Dodge brothers died, which was, oh, I don't know, 1955, 1970. That was the heyday for Dodge. The everyman's car. Plymouth was, the one that made cop cars and taxi cabs and business coupes and the cheap car just to get a car. Dodge made something nicer. And then you moved on up the line to Chrysler. That was your luxury. And the Charger was always the pinnacle of Dodge division when it was out, because it was the halo car for Dodge. No matter what e-body people think, the Challenger was not, the Charger was, till it stopped being produced. Real ones were stopped being produced in 1974. So, with no further ado, let us go look at this. This is the website that they made for the all-new Dodge Charger, the next gen of muscle unleashed. And so they basically spend 3/4 of this on the EV appliance that weighs 6,000 pounds with no price. And here's the two-door version, which is a market that I don't know existed. I don't know who they're marketing this to. This is like marketing the Marvels or Madam Web to young men. It just doesn't work. I don't understand this. It really is weird. So, I mean, if Tesla doesn't make a two-door, I don't think anybody should make a two-door. And remember, Tesla gets a lot of money from the other manufacturers and the government to be able to subsidize the losses that they actually take on their cars. So they spend 3/4 of this page talking about this next generation muscle. And in the video, you have the head of Dodge North America, the face of Dodge North America, talking to the Dodge brothers in the car. And yeah, and then he goes, they don't care. We're bucking the system. We're making an EV that just, doesn't care about range. Well, then there's really no point in the car, because the whole point of the electric boogaloo is that they were going to, make you so you could go farther cheaper. Well, this does the opposite. So then they kind of released at the end that they were going to make 2 gas power cars, which is no surprise to me, because in this video here, up on top, I talked about that they were making a gas powered car. And I actually showed a unit body that looks very similar to the Challenger unit body. I have a feeling there's a lot of similarity underneath this car if you start looking underneath it. And so they came out and they're going to come out with a 6-pack, which is just the most moronic name ever. 6-pack is a performance version of the 440 and the 340. That 6-pack moniker went from 1969 to 1972. Yes, they did make some in 72. And it meant that, that was a special thing. This is just a version of the car. I mean, the way they use memory berries is actually insulting to car guys. So you'll get a gas powered, because I refuse to use the word for frozen water to actually say what this is a gas powered car. The acronym is just stupid. And this is going to be your one flavor, a two-door with 550 horsepower, where I can't imagine the insurance is going to be anywhere less than Corvette money. I can't imagine the prices. This is not going to be less than what a Hellcat was. There's no way they're going to make a two-door car for under 65,000, especially with this engine in it. There's no way. So I don't know who does this market to. And the electric cars, it's Tavares himself has said they don't want to lose money on them. So now we're looking at 70 plus. Once again, low production number division. The Hornet doesn't sell. So the Hornet, and digress for a second on the Hornet. The Hornet is a failure. It is in a small SUV market against two really good vehicles, the Honda CR-V and the RAV4. I would buy either one of those before I'd even look at a Hornet. And I drive about 500 to 1,000 miles a week, and I've seen one Hornet in 5 months now? One. I'm in Florida. We sell a lot. There's a lot of new cars down here. There's 24 million people. There's a lot of cars get sold here. I see Maseratis, Stavalis all the time. I don't see Hornets. So we're and the Durango, they don't even advertise it anymore. So it's basically going to be a 1-2 car division or 4 car, whatever it is. I digress. So, and then of course you want the 4-door mid 2025. So the only version you have for a gas powered car from Dodge is a 2-door 550 horsepower model, which is a very small market. This is basically Mustang GT, M4, that crowd. This is not an average person's car. This is going to be a very expensive car to buy. And I'm not so sure, that it's going to sell. And I mean, I'm talking just the gas powered ones. The electric ones I know aren't going to sell. And I'll show you why. Well, first, let's go and look at the video. So here's the video. And I'm going to show you something kind of interesting. Look at the ratio here. It is almost 2-to-1 negative. People don't want this. That is horrendous. That is horrendous. 2-to-1. It is 66% negative. That is absolutely amazing how this car is just not accepted. I've never seen such negative feedback before the pricing even came out. This thing is as dead as a doornail. And let's go into the EV dead as a doornail. First, let's start with the president and CEO. Well, he's just the CEO of Stellantis. This is Carlos Tavares. He's been in the European car markets for a long time. Stellantis CEO says rush to affordable EVs will end a disaster. I read the article before in a previous video, but he's basically not truly sold that this is a good thing. And there's no way to make them affordable. You can keep on trying to make up stories, but there isn't happening because the technology doesn't exist. So let's move on to the other part of the world. Here's Mercedes. Mercedes CEO. This guy is paid to see the future of Mercedes. EVs are many, many years away from costing the same as traditional cars. And that's with them jacking the price up of regular gas cars. With all these different things they're adding to it, they raised the price of it, and it still will never be more expensive than an EV. And this is a person that his whole life is the automobile industry. It's his whole life. Oh, let's go to the Ford. Oh my goodness. So Ford, as I put in a previous video, loses $36,000 for every EV they sell. And they're 4-doors. They have the Mach-E, and then they have the F-150 Lightning. So now they're throwing another 13 grand on that loss. So they're going to lose $50,000 per car. So I don't know how this guy is gonna say that they're gonna be anyway for affordability when Ford, who's a bigger company, is getting destroyed. They actually made a whole division. They've lost, what, $7 billion so far on this? I mean, and then the F-150 Lightning, everybody was so excited about that. Not really. They're basically slicing and dicing the production of it completely. They're sitting on lots, rotting away. They basically took the resources, the stuff that makes money. They are now going and moving it to MAP, which is this place right here, and making more Broncos and Rangers because you actually make money on Broncos and Rangers, unlike the EVs. And then, of course, the Detroit Free Press, a little late to the game here. There's a gas model coming. Oh no, no, the gas model was always in the works because of those things. And of course, the US government's even showing us that maybe this mandate for 2030 doesn't work. The Biden administration to slow down EV shift to appease automakers and the unions, because the unions figured out that if they make EVs, that's a very low production car. They're going to be out of jobs. Plus, they can be very automated. Hmm. So they're pushing it back from 2030 to 2050. And I bet they'll get pushed back even again because the technology is not there, nor will it be. So let's go back to these cars. So the EVs we know are going to be expensive, extremely expensive and impractical. So the market for that is very tiny. If they sell 20,000 but combined, I'd be shocked. Honestly, in this environment, I'd be shocked if they sell 20,000. Now the gas powered ones, once again, the highest selling two-door car last year was the Mustang. And remember, most of the Mustangs sold are EcoBoost Mustangs, the cheaper Mustang with the four-cylinder twin turbo. You get a little break on your insurance, even though it's a Mustang. They sell more of those than they do GTs. And yet they only sold 50,000 Mustangs last year. The BMW 4 Series was number 2. The Challenger was like the fourth most selling two-door car last year. And that was with a giant push. And you can buy those with the Pentastar 6 in them. And they were cheap. You can buy one with 35 grand. You can get into a Challenger with a Pentastar 6. So this is low production. And I don't know who it's for. It's a market that doesn't exist. Truly, truly. I mean, the market exists, but at this cost, probably not. And it's very small. Most cars are 4 doors. So what are you thinking about pricing? Well, I'm going to use their own Ram division, which released pricing for their new Rams, which I almost fell on the floor. The Tradesman is the only one that comes with the Pentastar 6. That is now $42,000. The lowest model with the Hurricane is the Laramie. $62,000. And the accessories inside aren't really much greater, but you're looking at 62 grand because of that engine, because of the twin turbo inline. And it's not even the high performance one. The Limited is the one that comes with high performance. And we're talking $77,000 base price. So this two-door, you're looking somewhere between the $65,000 to $77,000 range for starters. That is BMW M territory without the BMW M cachet. I don't know who these cars are being aimed at. I don't know what Stellantis' real plan is, but Dodge looks like it's dead. It's as dead as can be. They have the Durango, which doesn't get advertised. They have the Hornet that no one wants, and they're going to have 2 EVs, one a two-door, and then a two-door car, which is going to be $70,000 because there's no way you can sell it for any less. I just don't see this being a very good thing for them. And Chrysler itself, it's dead. They unleashed, all they said is an EV. So Chrysler as a division looks pretty dead also. It's pretty sad. We've gotten to this point where Stellantis just basically thinks they could put something that kind of sort of looks like an old car and wrap it up in a shell and then make all sorts of memory berries to what used to be. And then, well, go and just basically not deliver anything that we can afford as car guys. These are very, very limited use cars. They're toys. They're not they're not even, especially the electric appliances, they serve no purpose in the real world. They really don't. I mean, they're 6,000 pounds. You're gonna go through tires like nobody's business on this car. I just it doesn't make any sense. It really is very bizarre, and only a company based in Europe can come out with a decision like this. It's really sad, and as far as the inline gas motors, the Hurricanes, there's the jury's still out on them because they haven't been in, a lot of vehicles. The Grand Wagoneer is $100,000, and it just got released into the Rams. So there's a very small sample size. We don't know how good they are. Even with all the issues with the Hemi, at least people had a known variable with them. And you knew that if you changed the oil all the time and drove them pretty hard, you'd get some life out of them. We don't know about this inline six. So it's a very big question mark because BMW twin turbo their inline sixes in 2007 with the 335, and it was a disaster. And those engines have never been reliable. They don't have a long lifespan. The original inline sixes from BMW were amazing engines. They would last 200, 300,000 miles just because the design is very balanced. But once they started trying to squeeze every ounce of power out of the car, the reliability disappeared. And that's BMW. This is not, Fiat, Peugeot, Citroën. This is not, French and Italian manufacturers. This is Germans who had trouble with quality control on an inline six with twin turbos. So as far as I don't see a very bright future at this point. The memory berries can only carry you so far, honestly. But the actual product and the pricing is really going to be the devil in the details. And from my vision, from as a car guy, as someone that's been in business, as someone that's been around cars all his life, I don't see a very positive end for this. It just doesn't, especially with a weakening economy and interest rates that look like they're just going to be high. The EV market's dead. You're releasing into the middle of basically the equivalent of this is when you're coming out with a brand new big block and it's 1975 in the middle of a gas crisis. It just screams of that. I just can't fathom this actually being even remotely successful. So on that non-bombshell, if you got something to this point, hit that like button. If you did, thank you for watching to this point. I usually don't do this type of content, but I have to as a car guy. Please comment. I enjoy comments. I respond to, well, actually all of them because it's a community and I like talking to people and having different, as long as you, and try to be a little bit respectful because I'm respectful when I respond back. And also, you can share this video because sharing is free on YouTube. And as always, subscribe because I actually do a lot more with old cars and just general car maintenance things that you should know to do if you're a car guy or if you're new to the hobby or you just kind of been a little on the the fringe of it. So if you have a cool old classic car or something that's fun to drive or something that's neat, I don't care what it is, as long as it kind of makes the head turn, take that sucker out because you'll make someone's day, probably even your own. And I'll catch you down the road.